Before we begin, a quick disclaimer. The strategies and information presented in this video are for educational purposes only. Individual test scores and college admission outcomes are influenced by a wide variety of factors, and your results may vary. This presentation is not a guarantee of a specific score or admission to any university. I remember staring at my first practice SAT score, a 1050. My stomach felt like it was filled with lead. All those years in honors classes, all the late nights doing homework, the extracurriculars. And this number was staring back at me, basically laughing in my face. My dream school, the one with the brochure taped to my wall, suddenly felt like it was on a different planet. And in that moment, I believed what the test wanted me to believe, that I just wasn't smart enough. That feeling is a lie. And if you've ever felt it, if you're staring at a practice score you hate, or you're too scared to even take one, I need you to listen to me very, very closely. The SAT is not a measure of your intelligence. It is not a measure of your worth. It is not a predictor of your future success. The SAT is a game. It's a weird, tricky, standardized game with a very specific set of rules. And the good news is any game can be beaten. You don't beat it by being a genius. You beat it by learning the system. Over the next 10 parts of this series, I'm going to hand you the exact, step-by-step system that has helped thousands of students transform their scores. We're not just talking about a few tips here and there. We are building a complete preparation machine from the ground up. Together, you and I are going to deconstruct this entire test. We will build a personalized study schedule that actually fits your life. We will master the grammar rules you forgot from middle school. We will learn to read passages with surgical precision. We will conquer every single math concept, from linear equations to trigonometry. And most importantly, we will install the mindset and strategies that separate the top 1% of test takers from everyone else who is just grinding away with practice tests and hoping for the best. By the end of this, you will walk into that testing center not with fear, but with the quiet confidence of someone who knows exactly what's coming and exactly how to dominate it. So let's start by blowing up the biggest myth of all. The myth that you're either good at tests or you're not. That is absolute garbage. Think of the SAT like a video game. Let's say it's Super Mario. Does a person who gets a high score in Super Mario have some kind of innate genetic gaming intelligence? Of course not. They just know the game. They know that if you jump on this block, a mushroom comes out. They know the secret warp zones. They know the boss's attack patterns. They've learned the rules and the structure of the game world. Studying for the SAT is the exact same thing. Most students study like they're just running Mario to the right over and over again, hoping they'll eventually get to the castle. They do practice problems, they read a chapter, they do more problems. It's passive, it's inefficient, and it leads to burnout. The system we're going to build is about learning the map. It's about finding the secret warp zones. It's about understanding the patterns behind every single question the test writers throw at you, because they are just patterns. So where do we start? We don't start on page 1 of a giant 1,000-page textbook. That's the single most overwhelming and demotivating thing you can do. We start by gathering intelligence. We start with the diagnostic test. Now I know what you're thinking. I don't want to take a practice test yet. I don't know anything. My score will be terrible. Good. I want it to be. The score you get on this first test means absolutely nothing. It is not a reflection of you. It is not your potential score. It is just a data point. It is a baseline. You cannot plan a road trip if you don't know where you're starting from. This diagnostic test is simply putting a pin on the map that says, you are here. Here's how you're going to do it. You need to find an official practice test from the College Board. You can find them for free online. Do not use a test from Kaplan or Princeton Review, or any other third-party company for your diagnostic. We need the real thing. Print it out. I know it's a lot of paper, but the real SAT is on paper, and you need to simulate the experience as closely as possible. Next, you have to treat it like the real deal. This is non-negotiable. Find a 3-hour block of time where you will not be disturbed. No phone, no music, no TV in the background. Tell your family you're busy. Go to a library if you have to. You must time yourself on every single section, using the exact time limits printed on the test. When the time is up for a section, you put your pencil down even if you're not finished. This is crucial. We need to know how you perform under real-time pressure. Take the scheduled breaks, but no more. Eat a good breakfast before you start. The goal is to create a full dress rehearsal of test day. Once you're done, you're going to grade it, and you're going to see that number. Maybe it's a 1050. Maybe it's a 1300. Maybe it's a 900. I don't care what the number is. And you can't either. That number is not your identity. It is simply data. And now we get to do the most important part of this entire first step, the analysis. This is where the magic happens. This is what separates the students who improve by 200 points from the ones who stay stuck. You're going to get a notebook or open a spreadsheet, and for every single question you got wrong, and even the ones you guessed on and got right, you're going to ask yourself 3 questions. Question number 1. Was this a careless mistake? Did you read the question wrong? Did you bubble in C when you meant to bubble in B? Did you do 2 plus 3 and somehow get 6? These are the most frustrating errors but also the easiest to fix. You just need to build a system for checking your work and slowing down. We'll cover that. Question number 2. Was this a content gap? This means you looked at the question and had absolutely no idea how to even begin. Maybe it was a math problem about trigonometry, and you haven't learned SOHCAHTOA yet. Maybe it was a grammar question about semicolons and you don't know the rule. This is fantastic news. A content gap is just a hole in your knowledge. It's not a reflection of your intelligence. It's just something you haven't learned yet. We can fix that. We can fill that hole with knowledge. Question number 3. Was this a time pressure mistake? This is when you knew how to do the problem but you rushed, panicked, and made a mistake because the clock was ticking. Or maybe you didn't even get to the last 5 questions in the section because you ran out of time. This is also great news because time management is a skill. It can be learned, practiced, and mastered just like anything else. By going through your entire test this way, you're no longer just a student with a bad score. You are a detective. You're a strategist. You have a detailed intelligence report. You'll know that, for example, you're solid in algebra but weak in geometry. You'll see that you're great at reading the science passages, but struggle with the old-timey history passages. You'll discover that you're making a ton of careless errors in the no calculator math section. This is the foundation of everything. This diagnostic analysis turns a vague, scary goal like, get a better SAT score, into a concrete, manageable mission. Your new mission isn't to study for the SAT. It's to master the 2 types of comma questions I missed, learn the formula for the volume of a cylinder, and practice a pacing strategy for the reading section. See the difference? One is overwhelming, the other is a plan. So your homework is simple. Take one official, timed, paper-based practice test, grade it, and then go through every single error and categorize it. Careless mistake, content gap, or time pressure. Because once you have that data, once you know exactly where your weaknesses are, you're ready for the next step. And in the next part, we're going to take that raw data and forge it into the perfect, personalized study plan designed to systematically eliminate every single one of your weaknesses. So you have your diagnostic report, a list of every question you got wrong. This isn't a list of your failures. It's a treasure map. It's the architectural blueprint for the score you're about to build. Most students take this data and just start doing random practice problems, hoping that by sheer volume, they'll somehow get better. That's like a builder showing up to a construction site with a pile of lumber and no plans, just hammering boards together hoping it eventually looks like a house. It's a colossal waste of time and energy, and it's why so many people study for months and see their scores barely move. We are not going to do that. We are going to be strategic. We are going to be architects. Your personalized study plan will be built on 3 core pillars. Get these right and your score won't just increase, it will transform. Pillar 1 is attacking content gaps. A content gap is a specific piece of knowledge you're missing. On your diagnostic, did you miss a question about circle theorems? That's a content gap. Did you forget the rules for semicolon usage? That's a content gap. These are the easiest problems to fix because they're not about clever test-taking tricks. They're about pure knowledge. You simply need to learn the rule or the formula you didn't know. Your first task is to go through every single wrong answer on your diagnostic, especially in the math and writing sections, and ask, did I get this wrong because I genuinely did not know the underlying concept? Make a list. This list is your first study assignment. Pillar 2 is conquering question type weaknesses. This is more subtle. These are the problems you miss even when you understand the underlying content. Maybe you understand the reading passage perfectly, but you consistently get tripped up by the command of evidence questions that ask you to cite the best textual support. Or maybe you know all your algebra rules, but you always make mistakes on the word problems that ask you to create an equation from a paragraph of text. These aren't knowledge gaps, they're skill gaps. It's about how the SAT frames the questions and how you approach them. Go through your diagnostic report again, but this time look for patterns. Are you missing a particular type of question over and over? Add these question types to your list. This is your second study assignment. Pillar 3 is mastering pacing and strategy. This is the overarching layer that affects everything else. Did you run out of time on the reading section? Did you spend 5 minutes on a single math problem that was only worth 1 point? Did you make a careless error because you were rushing? These are strategic failures. The SAT isn't just a test of your knowledge. It's a test of your ability to perform under pressure and make smart decisions with a ticking clock. Your study plan must include dedicated, timed practice to build your stamina and refine your test day strategy. So we have our 3 pillars: content, question types, and strategy. Now let's build the weekly schedule that addresses all 3. This is a template. You will customize it based on your own treasure map, your diagnostic report. First, decide on your time horizon. A 50 to 100 point improvement might take 40 to 80 hours of focused study, which you could spread over 2 to 3 months. A 200+ point jump is a bigger project, likely requiring over 150 hours across 4 to 6 months. Be realistic and be consistent. Cramming doesn't work. Here's what a highly effective week looks like. We'll call it the 2-2-1-1 model. 2 days of content, 2 days of targeted practice, 1 day of review, and 1 day for a full practice section or test. Let's say your week starts on Monday. Monday is content day 1. You look at your list of content gaps. Let's say at the top of the list is advanced algebra, quadratics. You will dedicate 60 to 90 minutes today to nothing but that. Go to an official resource like Khan Academy, which is partnered with the College Board. Watch their videos on quadratics. Read their articles. Do their foundational practice problems, the untimed ones. Your goal isn't speed. It's deep, unshakable understanding. You want to become the expert on quadratics. Tuesday is targeted practice day 1. Look at your list of question type weaknesses. Let's say you struggle with words in context, questions in the reading section. Today, you will spend 45 to 60 minutes doing only that type of question. Use official practice tests, find a good prep book, or use Khan Academy's targeted quizzes. The goal is to see the pattern. How do they trick you? What makes the right answer correct and the wrong answers tempting but flawed? You're not just answering questions, you're dissecting them. Wednesday is content day 2. Back to your content gap list. Next up, grammar, subject-verb agreement. Same as Monday. For 60 to 90 minutes, you will live and breathe this concept until you can spot a subject-verb error from a mile away. Thursday is targeted practice day 2. Back to the question type list. Maybe it's geometry, problems involving triangles and circles. For 45 to 60 minutes, you hunt down and solve every one of these problems you can find. You're training your brain to recognize the pattern instantly, so on test day, you don't waste a second wondering how to start. Friday is your mixed review and error analysis day. This is arguably the most important day of the week. You'll spend about an hour reviewing the concepts and question types you worked on from Monday to Thursday. But more importantly, you will review every single mistake you made. And this is where we introduce the single most powerful tool in your entire SAT prep arsenal: the error log. An error log is not just a list of wrong answers. It's a detailed diagnosis. Create a simple spreadsheet with 4 columns. Column 1, the question number and source. Column 2, a brief summary of the question. Column 3, why you thought your wrong answer was right. Column 4, why the right answer is actually right and what you will do differently next time. This forces you to confront your thought process. Did you get it wrong because of a careless mistake like misreading accept? Was it a true content gap where you didn't know a formula? Was it a strategy error where you fell for a trap answer? Documenting this is non-negotiable. Your error log becomes a personalized textbook of your own mistakes, and reviewing it is 10 times more valuable than doing 100 new problems blindly. Saturday is game day. This is where you address Pillar 3, pacing and strategy. Every other week, you should take a full-time practice test under realistic conditions. On the alternate weeks, take 1 or 2 full-time sections, for example, the entire reading section and the entire writing section. The goal is to build stamina and practice your time management. Can you finish each section with a few minutes to spare to review your answers? This is where theory meets reality. And Sunday? Sunday is for rest. Your brain builds connections and learns when it's resting. Burnout is the #1 enemy of a high score. Do not study 7 days a week. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Take a day off. You've earned it. So there it is. The 2-2-1-1 system. 2 days of deep content learning, 2 days of targeted question type practice, 1 day for critical review and error logging, 1 day for timed practice, and 1 day to rest. You take your diagnostic report, that treasure map, and you plug your specific weaknesses into this structure. This isn't a generic plan. It's your plan. It's a living document. After your next practice test in 2 weeks, you'll have new data. You'll find new, more advanced weaknesses to hunt down. You'll update your lists and refine your focus. You are no longer just studying for the SAT. You are executing a precise surgical plan to add points to your score week after week. You now have the blueprint and the weekly schedule. You know how to build your plan. But a plan is useless without execution. And the first battleground, the section that terrifies more students than any other, is the reading section. It's long, it's dense, and the questions feel subjective. But they're not. Every single question has a right answer for a cold, logical reason. And in the next part, we're going to break down the SAT reading section piece by piece. We will reveal the exact strategies you need to read passages efficiently, eliminate trap answers with confidence, and conquer every single question type the test will throw at you. Let's start with the truth that will change how you see this entire section. The SAT reading test is not a reading comprehension test. Read that again. It is not designed to see how well you understand complex literature or scientific theory. It is a scavenger hunt. An open book test where every single answer is printed right there on the page in front of you. Your job isn't to be a literary critic or a brilliant scientist. Your job is to be a detective. A detective who finds the evidence, matches it to a suspect, and ignores all the noise. Once you make this mental shift, from student to detective, the entire section transforms from intimidating to conquerable. The single most important rule, the one you should write down and repeat until it's burned into your brain, is this: the correct answer is 100%, unequivocally, provably in the text. There is no room for interpretation. There is no, well, the author might have meant. No, the College Board has to defend every single correct answer, so they can't use ambiguity. This is your greatest weapon. It means for every correct answer, you should be able to physically point to the words, the phrase, or the sentence in the passage that proves it's right. If you can't find that direct evidence, it's not the right answer. Period. So how does a detective approach a crime scene, a passage? You don't just wander in aimlessly. You have a system. Here is your 3-step system for every single passage you encounter. First, step 1, the pre-investigation. Before you read a single line of the passage itself, read the short, italicized blurb at the top. This little blurb is pure gold. It gives you context. It might say, this passage is adapted from a 1920 novel about a woman challenging social norms. Or, this passage discusses a recent scientific debate about the habitability of exoplanets. In 10 seconds, you already know the genre, the time period, the topic, and the general purpose. You've just been handed the case file. After reading the blurb, you're going to do a strategic skim of the passage, which should take no more than 2 to 3 minutes. You are not reading for detail. You are creating a mental map. You're looking for the main idea of the first paragraph, the last paragraph, and the first sentence of every body paragraph. You're looking for transition words like however, in contrast, or therefore, that signal a shift in the argument. Is the author comparing 2 ideas? Are they presenting a problem and then a solution? Are they just describing a historical event? Your goal is to finish this skim and be able to say in 1 sentence what the passage is about and how it's structured. That's it. You've mapped the territory. Now for step 2, and this might feel backward, but it is the secret to speed and accuracy: attack the questions. After your skim, you go straight to the questions. Specifically, you divide them into 2 categories: go find it questions and big picture questions. Go find it questions are your bread and butter. They'll literally give you a line number, like in line 35, the word archaic most nearly means. Or they'll ask about a specific detail you can easily locate. You do these first. They're quick points. You use your mental map from the skim to know roughly where to look. You go to that part of the passage, read a few lines before and after for context, find the proof, and lock in your answer. Big picture questions are the ones that ask about the main purpose, the author's tone, or the overall structure. You save these for last. Why? Because by answering all the specific go find it questions first, you've already been forced to reread and engage with all the most important parts of the passage. You've essentially done the deep reading required to answer the big picture questions as a byproduct of hunting for the smaller details. It's a beautifully efficient system. Step 3 is where the detective work really shines. play the elimination game. You are not looking for the right answer. You are looking for the 3 wrong answers. This mindset is crucial. The SAT is masterful at creating tempting, almost right answer choices. By focusing on elimination, you protect yourself from these traps. For every answer choice, you put it on trial. Your question is, can I find direct, undeniable proof for this in the text? If the answer is no, you eliminate it. Even if it sounds smart, even if it seems plausible, no evidence, no conviction. You will be left with one answer that is directly and explicitly supported by the text. To do this effectively, you need to know the SAT's favorite tricks. You need to recognize the profiles of the usual suspects, the 4 most common types of wrong answers. First is the too extreme trap. These are answer choices that use absolute words like always, never, impossible, perfect, or every. The passages, especially in science and history, are usually filled with nuance and careful language. An answer choice that makes a sweeping, absolute claim is almost always wrong. It's too bold, too simple for the complex ideas in the text. Second is the one-word off trap. This is the most devious trick in the book. The answer choice will look perfect. It will summarize the idea from the passage beautifully, but the test makers will have changed one single, critical word that makes the entire statement incorrect. Maybe the passage said the theory was promising, but the answer choice says it was proven. Close but fatally wrong. You have to read every word of an answer choice with suspicion. Third is the out-of-scope trap. This answer choice might even be a factually true statement in the real world, but it's not supported by the passage. For example, a passage about the physics of whale migration might have a wrong answer choice that talks about the economic impact of whale watching. While true that whale watching has an economic impact, if the passage never mentioned it, it's out of scope. It's a trap for people who bring in outside knowledge. Remember the golden rule. If it's not in the text, it doesn't exist. Finally, there's the logical leap trap. This is an answer that seems like a reasonable inference, but it requires you to connect dots that the author didn't connect for you. It asks you to assume something. For example, if the passage says the study was conducted in a cold climate, a logical leap answer might be the researchers were uncomfortable. It makes sense, but the passage never said they were uncomfortable. You can't make that leap. The correct answer will always be a step, not a leap from the text. Now let's talk about the dreaded command of evidence paired questions. Question 1 asks you something and question 2 asks, which choice provides the best evidence for the answer to the previous question? Students waste so much time on these. Here's the hack. Do them together, but start with the second question. Read question 1 to know what you're looking for. Then, instead of searching the whole passage, just read the 4 short text snippets offered as answer choices in question 2. One of those 4 snippets is the only piece of evidence the SAT considers valid. Go through them one by one. Does snippet A answer the first question? No. Does snippet B? Yes, it does. And if snippet B is the evidence, then you can use it to confirm your answer to question 1. You've just answered 2 questions in one fluid motion. Finally, a word on pacing. You have 65 minutes for 5 passages and 52 questions. That's 13 minutes per passage. Don't let that number scare you. Use it as a guide. Spend 2 to 3 minutes on your pre-investigation skim. Spend the next 9 to 10 minutes hunting down answers to the questions. If a question is stumping you and eating up more than a minute, circle it and move on. Your job is to collect as many points as possible. It's better to skip one hard question and get 5 easier ones right than to waste 5 minutes on a single problem and run out of time. You can always come back at the end if you have a few minutes to spare. The SAT reading section is a game. It has rules, it has patterns, and it has tricks. But now you know how to beat them. You're not a student trying to understand. You're a detective executing a strategy. You read the blurb, you map the passage, you attack the questions, you eliminate the traps, and you find the proof. This systematic approach demystifies the entire process, but what if I told you there's a section of the SAT that's even more systematic, even more predictable? A section where knowing just a handful of rules can almost guarantee you a near-perfect score. In the next part, we're going to dissect the SAT writing and language test. It's the most overlooked and most improvable section of the entire exam, and I'm going to show you the exact grammar rules and rhetorical skills that make up over 80% of the questions, turning it from a source of anxiety into your secret weapon for a massive score increase. So let's break down the code. The SAT writing and language section isn't a test of your creative writing ability. It's a test of your ability to spot patterns and errors. Think of it less like an English class and more like a logic puzzle. There are a finite number of rules, and the test makers use the same tricks over and over again. Your job is to become a master detective, spotting the clues they leave behind. We can boil down the vast majority of the grammar questions you'll face into what I call the 8 pillars of SAT grammar. Master these and you've mastered the core of the section. We're going to cover the first and most crucial 4 pillars right now. These 4 alone account for a massive chunk of your score. Pillar number 1 is punctuation power. This is the big one. It's not about memorizing 100 obscure rules. It's about understanding the 3 core jobs of punctuation on this test. First, let's talk about stopping and connecting ideas. You have 3 tools to connect 2 complete sentences, and a complete sentence, remember, is just an idea that can stand on its own. It has a subject and a verb. Your tools are a period, a semicolon, and a comma followed by a conjunction like and, but, or so. That's it. Period creates a full stop. A semicolon acts like a soft period, linking 2 very closely related complete sentences. Think of it as a fancy period. A comma plus a conjunction like, but, connects 2 complete ideas while showing their relationship. The single most common error tested is the comma splice. That's when you use only a comma to connect 2 complete sentences. For example, the student studied for hours, he was confident for the test. That's wrong. It's a comma splice. You need to fix it. You could say, the student studied for hours. He was confident. Or, the student studied for hours. He was confident. Or, the student studied for hours, so he was confident. The SAT will give you all of these options, and your job is to recognize that the original sentence is broken. If you see a comma between 2 full sentences, a red flag should go up in your mind. The second major punctuation tool is the comma itself, used for non-essential information. This is the SAT's favorite trick. They will stick a phrase in the middle of a sentence, surrounded by commas, just to distract you. For example, the book which has a blue cover is on the table. The phrase which has a blue cover is extra information. You can lift it right out of the sentence, and the sentence still makes perfect sense. The book is on the table. The rule is simple. If a phrase is surrounded by 2 commas, it must be removable. The SAT will test this by using only 1 comma, or by putting commas around something that is essential to the sentence's meaning. Finally, there's the colon and the single dash. They do the same job on this test. They introduce a list, an explanation, or a clarification. The key rule here is that the part of the sentence before the colon or dash must be a complete, standalone sentence. For example, he brought everything needed for the trip: a tent, a sleeping bag, and a map. The part before the colon, he brought everything needed for the trip, is a complete thought. You couldn't say, he brought things like a tent, because he brought things like is not a complete sentence. Master these punctuation concepts, stopping, separating extra info, and introducing lists, and you've just decoded a huge portion of the test. Pillar number 2, subject-verb agreement. This sounds simple, but the SAT has a particular genius for making it complicated. The rule is that a singular subject needs a singular verb, and a plural subject needs a plural verb. The dog barks. The dogs bark. Easy, right? Here's the trap. The SAT will hide the subject from you by putting a ton of fluff between it and the verb. They love using prepositional phrases, phrases that start with words like of, into, for, with, on, at. Here's a classic example. The box of delicious, freshly picked apples from the local orchard is on the table. The verb is. What is on the table? The apples? No, the box is on the table. The subject is box, which is singular. Therefore, the verb must be singular. Is. Most people's ears hear apples right before the verb and want to choose are. The strategy to beat this is what I call slash and burn. When you see a subject-verb agreement question, your first move is to find the subject of the sentence. Then cross out all the prepositional phrases between the subject and the verb. Slash through them. The box of delicious, freshly picked apples from the local orchard is on the table. What's left? The box is on the table. The correct answer becomes instantly clear. They will do this over and over again. They'll use long, distracting phrases to make you lose track of the subject. Don't fall for it. Find the subject, ignore the fluff, and match the verb. Pillar number 3 is pronoun clarity. Pronouns are words that replace nouns like he, she, it, they, that, and which. There are 2 main ways the SAT tests this. First is pronoun antecedent agreement. The antecedent is just the noun the pronoun is replacing. The rule is the same as with subjects and verbs. They must agree in number. If the noun is singular, the pronoun must be singular. If the noun is plural, the pronoun must be plural. For example, each student must bring his or her textbook. The subject is each student, which is singular. Therefore, the pronoun must be singular. His or her. The SAT loves words like each, every, everyone, and anyone because they sound plural, but they are grammatically singular. You can't say each student must bring their textbook. While we say that in everyday speech on the SAT, there is plural, so it's an error. The second pronoun trap is ambiguity. A pronoun must clearly refer to one, and only one specific noun. If it's even slightly unclear which noun the pronoun is talking about, it's wrong. Here's an example. When the coach and the player argued, he became very angry. Who is he? The coach? The player? It's ambiguous. The sentence is grammatically incorrect on the SAT. You would have to rewrite it to clarify. For example, the coach became very angry when he argued with the player. If you read a sentence and you have to ask who or what about a pronoun, it's a trap. The correct answer will always be the one that is the most clear and specific. Finally, for today we have pillar number 4, parallel structure or parallelism. This is a fancy term for a very simple idea. Items in a list or comparison should be in the same grammatical format. It's about balance and consistency. If you start a list with an ing verb, you should continue with ing verbs. For example, I enjoy hiking, swimming, and running. That's parallel. I enjoy hiking, swimming, and to run is not. It breaks the pattern. The SAT tests this in lists and comparisons using words like then or as, and with paired conjunctions like not only, but also. Your job is to be a pattern matcher. When you see a list or a comparison, check the structure of each element. Are they all nouns? Are they all verbs starting with to? Are they all clauses starting with at? Let's say a sentence reads, the new policy was intended to boost morale, increase productivity, and for the improvement of communication. You should immediately spot the outlier. Boost morale, verb phrase. Increase productivity, verb phrase. For the improvement of communication, prepositional phrase. The pattern is broken. The correct parallel version would be, and improve communication. Keep the structure consistent. It's one of the easiest points to get once you know what to look for. So there you have it. Punctuation, subject-verb agreement, pronoun clarity, and parallelism. These aren't just random grammar rules. They are the fundamental building blocks of clear, logical writing, and they are the absolute favorite tools of the SAT test makers. By turning your brain into a detection machine for these specific patterns, you're no longer guessing. You're executing a strategy. You're seeing the matrix behind the test, recognizing the traps before you even fall into them. This is how you transform the writing section from a liability into an asset. You're not just learning English, you're learning the language of the SAT itself. And now we pivot from the world of grammar and rhetoric to the world of numbers, logic, and absolute certainty. Welcome to the SAT math section. For many, this is the final boss, the mountain that seems too high to climb. We're conditioned to think of math as this binary thing. You're either a math person or you're not. Let me tell you right now, that is the single biggest lie holding students back. The SAT doesn't care if you're a math person, it cares if you're a strategic thinker. It's not testing your ability to derive complex theorems. It's testing your ability to recognize patterns and apply fundamental rules under pressure. Think of the math test as two distinct arenas. First, you have the no calculator section. This is the sprint. 20 questions in 25 minutes. The clock is your enemy, and your brain is your only weapon. Then you have the calculator section. This is the marathon. 38 questions in 55 minutes. Here the challenge is endurance and the strategic use of your tools. Mastering the SAT math means becoming a champion in both arenas, and the training for each is different. Let's start with the sprint, the no calculator section. The very name strikes fear into the hearts of students who have become surgically attached to their TI-84s. But here's the secret the College Board doesn't advertise. They designed these questions to be solvable without a calculator. If you find yourself needing to multiply 3,472 by 8,954, you have made a wrong turn. A catastrophically wrong turn. This section is a test of purity. It's about the elegance of mathematics. It's testing your fluency in the language of algebra. Can you look at an equation like 3x plus 2y equals 18 and instantly see it as a line on a graph? Can you manipulate variables with the same ease that you'd rearrange furniture in a room? The core of the No Calculator section revolves around what I call the heart of algebra. This isn't just a clever name. It's the official category, and it's everything. We're talking linear equations, systems of linear equations, and linear inequalities. You must be able to solve for x in your sleep. You need to be able to look at two equations with two variables and know, instantly, whether to use substitution or elimination to find the solution. These aren't just skills. They're reflexes you need to build through repetition. Another major player here is quadratics. Factoring, completing the square, the quadratic formula. These should be your trusted tools. You should be able to look at a parabola's equation and visualize its shape, its vertex, its direction. They'll also throw in questions about functions, exponents, and basic geometry. But the soul of this section is pure, unadulterated algebra. The strategy here is speed through recognition. You don't have time for hesitation. As you read a problem, your brain should be immediately categorizing it. Ah, this is a systems of equations problem. I'll use elimination. Okay, this is a function notation question. I just need to plug in the value. This is a quadratic. I'll factor it to find the roots. The students who excel here don't perform complex mental calculations. They see the shortcut. They recognize that a messy-looking expression can be simplified with one clever factoring trick. They see the structure beneath the numbers. Your practice for this section should be focused on volume and pattern recognition. Do hundreds of these problems, and you'll start to see that the SAT only has so many tricks up its sleeve. Now let's walk into the second arena. The marathon. The calculator section. Here the game changes. The problems get longer. They become dense word problems, often involving multiple steps. They throw charts, graphs, and tables at you. This section isn't just testing your math skills. It's testing your reading comprehension and your ability to translate the real world into mathematical models. And it's testing your stamina. The biggest mistake students make here is thinking the calculator is a magic wand. It's not. It's a tool, and like any tool, it can be used skillfully or clumsily. Sometimes the fastest way to solve a problem is to use your brain. Other times, letting your calculator handle a tedious calculation is the only way to finish on time. The art is knowing the difference. Your calculator is your hammer. Don't use it to turn a screw. Key topics in this section expand into what the College Board calls problem solving and data analysis. This is where your statistics knowledge comes into play. You need to be rock solid on mean, median, mode, and range. But it goes deeper. You'll see questions about standard deviation, lines of best fit, and interpreting scatter plots. They'll give you a survey result and ask you to make a conclusion, testing your understanding of margins of error and statistical significance. Don't let these terms scare you. The SAT tests them at a very foundational level. You don't need to be a stats major. You just need to understand the story the data is telling. This section is also heavy on passport to advanced math, which includes more complex functions, quadratic equations in convoluted forms, and manipulating polynomials. The word problems are the true test. They'll give you a paragraph about a biologist modeling a frog population or an economist modeling company profits. Your job is to cut through the noise. You have to become an expert translator, converting English sentences into algebraic equations. So how do you conquer these two very different arenas? You need a unified theory of attack, a system that works for any problem, calculator or not. And that system is what I call problem deconstruction. Every SAT math problem, no matter how intimidating it looks, can be broken down into 3 simple steps. Step 1. What is the actual question? I mean it. Literally, what are they asking me to find? Underline the last sentence of the problem. Is it asking for the value of x? Or is it asking for the value of 2x plus 1? Is it asking for the slope of the line, or the y-intercept? So many points are lost not because of bad math, but because of bad reading. You solve for x perfectly, but the question was asking for y. Before your pencil does anything else, you must have absolute clarity on your objective. Step 2. What information am I given? Go back through the problem and pull out every number, every variable, every relationship. Write them down. If they give you a chart, what are the axes? What are the units? If it's a word problem, translate the phrases into math. Is means equals. Of means multiply. Percent means divide by 100. More than means addition. Create a clean inventory of all your assets. Don't leave anything on the table. Step 3. How do I connect the information to the question? This is where your knowledge comes in. You look at your inventory of information, you look at your objective, and you build a bridge. Is it a geometry problem? Maybe the bridge is the Pythagorean theorem. Is it a systems of equations problem? The bridge is substitution. Is it a data problem? The bridge is the formula for the mean. This third step is where you decide on your plan of attack. You're no longer just doing math. You're a strategist executing a plan. Let's try a quick example. Imagine a word problem that says, a food truck sells salads for $6.50 and drinks for $2. On a given day, the truck made a total of $836.50 and sold 209 items in total. How many salads did the truck sell? Whoa, okay, let's deconstruct. Step 1. What's the question? How many salads did the truck sell? Got it. I'll define S as the number of salads. My final answer is S. Step 2. What's the information? Salads cost $6.50. Drinks cost $2.00. Total money is $836.50. Total items is 209. Let's define D as the number of drinks. Step 3. How do I connect them? I see two totals. A total for money and a total for items. This screams systems of equations. I can build one equation for the money. 6.50 times the number of salads plus 2.00 times the number of drinks equals 836.50. And I can build one for the items. The number of salads plus the number of drinks equals 209. Now I have two equations, two variables. The bridge is built. I can solve this system using substitution or elimination and find my answer for S. See, we took a scary-looking paragraph and turned it into a simple, solvable algebraic task. This process works for everything. It turns you from a passive victim of the problem into an active, aggressive problem solver. This is how you conquer both the sprint and the marathon. You don't just learn the formulas, you learn the architecture of the questions themselves. You have the rules of engagement for the writing section, and now you have the battle plan for the math section. You're building an arsenal piece by piece. But knowing how to solve the problems is only half the battle. The other half is knowing how to practice, how to review, and how to manage your single most valuable resource, your time. And that ticking clock. It's the final boss of the SAT. It's the invisible enemy that can turn a potential 1500 into a 1250. You can know how to solve every single problem on the test, but if you can't do it within the time limit, that knowledge is worthless. This isn't just about working faster. Rushing leads to careless errors, misread questions, and a downward spiral of panic. The secret isn't speed, it's efficiency. It's about transforming your practice sessions from a casual jog into a high-intensity, strategic training regimen designed to make you a master of pace and pressure. Think of your SAT prep as being an athlete training for the Olympics. You wouldn't just show up on game day and hope for the best. You'd have a plan. You'd have drills. You'd analyze your performance. Let's build that plan right now. Your training has two fundamental modes: untimed practice and timed practice. Most students blend these together and end up getting the benefits of neither. Untimed practice is your laboratory. This is where you perfect your form. When you're first learning a new concept, like trigonometry or modifier placement, the clock is your enemy. Turn it off. Your only goal during this phase is 100% accuracy. Take as long as you need. Go through the problem step by step. Talk it out loud. Write down every single thought. If you get stuck, use your notes, look up the formula, consult a guide. The point isn't to simulate the test. It's to build the deep, unshakable understanding of the concept itself. It's like a weightlifter practicing a deadlift with just the bar. They're not trying to lift heavy. They're trying to make every millimeter of the movement perfect. This is where you build the muscle memory for solving problems correctly. Rushing this process is how you bake bad habits into your brain. Once you can consistently get a certain type of question right in untimed practice, you graduate to timed practice. This is the sparring ring. Now the clock comes back on and the goal shifts. You're no longer just focused on accuracy. You're focused on accuracy under pressure. But don't just jump into full-length 65-minute sections. That's like a beginner runner trying to start with a marathon. You'll burn out. Instead, you use a technique called pacing sets. You break the sections down into bite-sized chunks. For the reading section, instead of doing a full 52-question section in 65 minutes, do one 10-question passage in 12 minutes. For the math no calculator section, instead of 20 questions in 25 minutes, Do 10 questions in 12 minutes. This does two incredible things. First, it makes practice less intimidating. It's way easier to convince yourself to do a 12-minute drill than a full 1-hour section. Second, it gives you rapid feedback on your pacing. After each small set, you can immediately see if you're on track, too fast, or too slow. You're building your internal clock, getting a feel for what 75 seconds per math question actually feels like. You do this over and over, and soon the pressure of the clock begins to fade into the background. It's no longer a monster. It's just a metronome keeping the beat. But here is the single biggest secret, the one thing that separates the 1,500 scores from everyone else. It's not how much they practice, it's how they review. Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. And perfect practice involves a ruthless, systematic review of every single mistake you make. Most students finish a practice set, look at the answer key, say, "Oh, it was B, I picked C, oops," and move on. This is the equivalent of flushing your potential score increase down the toilet. Every mistake you make in practice is a treasure map leading to a higher score. But you have to know how to read the map. For this, you need an error log. It can be a physical notebook or a simple spreadsheet. It needs 4 columns. Question number, the mistake, the real reason, and the plan. Let's walk through it. Column 1, question number, is easy. Column 2, the mistake, is where you briefly describe what you did wrong. I picked the wrong word in a vocabulary question. Or, I messed up the quadratic formula. Simple. Column 3 is where the magic happens. The real reason. This is where you become a detective. You have to dig deeper than just, I got it wrong. You must categorize your error. Was it a concept gap? Meaning you genuinely did not know the underlying grammar rule or math formula. Was it a misread question? You solved for x when they asked for 2x. Was it a careless error? A simple calculation mistake, a plus instead of a minus? Or was it a time pressure mistake? You knew how to do it, but you panicked and guessed because the clock was running out. Be brutally honest with yourself here. Identifying the true source of the error is the only way to fix it. Finally, column 4. The plan. This is your promise to your future self. Based on the real reason, what is one specific, actionable thing you will do to prevent this mistake from ever happening again? If it was a concept gap, the plan is, watch a video on subject-verb agreement and do 10 practice problems untimed. If it was a misread question, the plan is, for every math question, I will physically circle what the question is asking for before I start solving. If it was a careless error, the plan is, I will write out every step of my algebra and double-check my calculations. This error log transforms you from a passive student into an active learner. You're not just doing problems. You're diagnosing your weaknesses and systematically eliminating them. You are forging mental armor. After a few weeks of this, you'll have a database of your personal SAT kryptonite and a clear plan to turn every weakness into a strength. Now, with this foundation of perfect practice and ruthless review, you can build your game day time management strategy. On the actual test, you need a system. The most effective one is the 2-pass system. On your first pass through any section, you have one mission. Answer all the questions you are confident you can get right quickly. These are the easy and medium questions. Your bread and butter. If you encounter a question that seems hard, confusing, or time-consuming, you do not engage. You do not become a hero trying to wrestle it to the ground. You circle it in your test booklet and move on immediately. Bail. This is a strategic retreat, not a surrender. Why? Because every question on the SAT is worth the same number of points. A super hard algebra question is worth the exact same single point as a dead simple grammar question. Don't let one hard question steal the points from 3 easy ones you never got to at the end of the section. Your goal on the first pass is to harvest all the low-hanging fruit. This builds a strong score foundation and, just as importantly, it builds momentum and confidence. Then, with the time you have left, you go back for your second pass. You attack only the questions you circled. Now you can afford to spend a little more time on them. You've already banked a ton of points. The pressure is lower. You might see the question with fresh eyes and figure it out. And if you still can't, you can make an educated guess and move on, knowing you didn't sacrifice any easier points for it. To make this system work, you need checkpoints. Know the layout of the test. For the 65-minute reading section, you have 5 passages. That's 13 minutes per passage. After you finish the first passage, glance at the clock. Are you at the 12-minute mark? Great. Are you at 16 minutes? You need to pick up the pace on the next one. These little checkpoints prevent the dreaded end-of-section panic, where you realize you have 5 minutes left and 15 questions to go. You're managing your test in small, controllable segments. This is how you conquer the clock. You train for it with targeted practice. You learn from your mistakes with a detailed review system. And you execute on test day with a calm, disciplined strategy. You turn the clock from an enemy you're racing against into a partner you're pacing with. You've built the engine by mastering the concepts, and now you've just learned how to be an expert driver. Now you're ready to take this machine onto the track, to apply these strategies to the specific challenges of each section. Let's start with the reading and writing section. The new digital SAT has fundamentally changed the game. Gone are the days of marathon reading a massive passage and then answering 10 questions about it. Now you're facing a series of short, single-paragraph texts, each with just one focused question. Think of it not as a long-distance run, but as a series of explosive sprints. This format rewards precision, focus, and the ability to quickly extract meaning from a small amount of text. Your strategy must adapt. The section is broken down into 4 main skill categories, and if you understand the goal of each one, you'll know exactly what to look for. First, there's information and ideas. This is the heart of reading comprehension. These questions ask what is directly stated or implied in the text. The single most important strategy here is to become a textual detective. Your personal opinions, your prior knowledge, your brilliant interpretations, they mean nothing. The correct answer is always hiding in plain sight within the passage. Your job is to find the evidence. When you look at an answer choice, your first thought shouldn't be, "Does this sound right?" It should be, "Where is the proof for this in the text?" Literally point your finger at the screen, at the exact words that support your choice. If you can't find a direct line of evidence, it's the wrong answer. This is how you avoid the most common traps. The answers that are almost right or could be true in a different context, but aren't supported by this specific text. Be ruthless. No evidence, no answer. Next up is craft and structure. This is where you put on your author hat. These questions are about the how and the why of the writing. Why did the author choose this specific word? What is the function of this particular sentence? How does the overall structure support the main point? The key here is to think about purpose. A classic question might ask for the meaning of a word in context. Don't just pick the most common dictionary definition. Reread the sentence and even sentences before and after. The author chose that word for a reason, to create a specific tone, to draw a comparison, to add a layer of meaning. Your job is to figure out that reason. For questions about text structure, ask yourself, is this paragraph providing an example? Is it offering a counterargument? Is it defining a term? By identifying the function of the text, the correct answer about its structure becomes crystal clear. The third category is expression of ideas. This is where the writing component really shines. These questions test your ability to improve the effectiveness of the writing. You'll be asked to choose the most logical transition, or the sentence that best accomplishes a specific rhetorical goal. The winning strategy here is to focus on logic and flow. The SAT is testing your ability to be a good editor. Read the paragraph and get a sense of its main idea. If you need to add a transition word like however or therefore, make sure the relationship between the sentences actually matches that word. However signals a contrast. Therefore signals a conclusion. Don't just pick one that sounds smart. Pick the one that accurately reflects the logical connection. When a question asks you to revise a sentence to achieve a goal, like emphasize the student's discovery, read each option aloud in your head and see which one actually places the emphasis on the discovery. The correct answer will always make the passage clearer, more concise, and more logical. Finally, we have standard English conventions. This is the pure, uncut grammar section. Punctuation, subject-verb agreement, pronoun usage, all the rules you learned in English class. The strategy here is not to go by what sounds good. Spoken English is often grammatically incorrect. You need to operate on a foundation of rules. I want you to develop a mental checklist for these questions. When you see an underlined portion with punctuation, immediately check for the most common errors. Is it a comma splice, two independent clauses joined only by a comma? Is it a run-on sentence? Is there a misplaced modifier? For verb questions, find the subject of the sentence. Is it singular or plural? Make sure the verb agrees. For pronoun questions, find what the pronoun is referring to, the antecedent, and ensure they match a number. This is the most black and white part of the test. There is one right answer based on established rules. Know the rules and these questions become free points. So the overarching approach for the entire reading and writing section is this. Read the question stem first. Understand exactly what you're being asked to do. Are you finding evidence? Analyzing the author's craft? Improving the logic? Or fixing a grammar error? With that mission in mind, read the short text. Then, attack the answer choices, using the specific strategy for that question type. Whether it's finding proof in the text or applying a grammar rule, this surgical approach turns an overwhelming section into a series of predictable, manageable tasks. Now, just as the reading and writing section has its own logic, the math section is a different kind of racetrack, demanding a different kind of precision. Here, the challenge isn't ambiguity, it's application and accuracy. The math section is dominated by 4 major areas. The largest by far is algebra. This is the bedrock of the SAT math test. You'll see linear equations, inequalities, systems of equations, and more. The number 1 strategy for algebra is learning to translate. Nearly every algebra question on the SAT is a word problem, a story. Your first job is to translate that story from English into the language of math. When you read, "The price of a ticket is $12 and the school sold 500 tickets," your brain shouldn't just see words, it should see 12*500. When you see Maria has 5 more than twice the number of books Sam has, you should immediately be writing M equals 2s plus 5. Practice this translation relentlessly. Isolate the variables, identify the constants, and map out the relationships between them. Once you have the equation set up, the algebra itself is often surprisingly straightforward. The hard part is the translation, so master that first. The next category is advanced math. This sounds intimidating, but it primarily refers to the kinds of problems you see in Algebra 2. Quadratic equations, exponential functions, polynomials, and radicals. The key strategy here is pattern recognition. The SAT isn't trying to trick you with brand new, unsolvable math. It tests the same concepts over and over, just dressed up in different clothes. Your goal is to see past the disguise and recognize the underlying structure. When you see an equation with an x-squared term, your brain should light up and think, okay, this is a quadratic. I have a toolkit for this. I can factor it, I can use the quadratic formula, or I can complete the square. When you see a variable in an exponent, you think, this is an exponential function, likely dealing with growth or decay. By recognizing the type of problem, you instantly know which tools from your mathematical toolbox are most likely to work. Third, we have problem solving and data analysis. This is your real-world math section. It's all about ratios, percentages, and interpreting information from tables, charts, and graphs. The most critical strategy here is meticulous attention to detail. This is where tiny mistakes can cost you big. Before you even start calculating, read every single label. What are the units on the y-axis? Is the graph showing data in thousands or millions? What does the title of the table tell you? Then read the question with a highlighter, mentally or physically. What exactly is it asking for? Is it asking for the median or the mean, the total number, or the percentage increase? Countless points are lost by students who do perfect calculations but answer the wrong question. After you get an answer, do a quick sanity check. If the chart shows a company's profit is around $50,000 a year and your calculation gives you $5 billion, you probably made a decimal error. Slow down, be deliberate, and check your work. Finally, there's geometry and trigonometry. While a smaller portion of the test, these questions are unmissable if you're prepared. The winning strategy is to visualize and externalize. If a problem describes a geometric situation without providing a picture, draw one. Don't try to juggle a complex shape in your head. Sketch it out. Label the side lengths and angles you know. This simple act can often reveal the path to the solution, showing you a right triangle where you can use the Pythagorean theorem, or a set of similar triangles. For trigonometry, it comes down to SOHCAHTOA. It's that simple. Know your sine, cosine, and tangent ratios cold. And while the SAT provides a formula sheet, you should have the essentials memorized to save precious seconds. Area of a circle, the Pythagorean theorem, and the equations for lines and circles. And we have to talk about the new superpower on the digital SAT, the built-in Desmos calculator. This is not just a calculator. It's a graphing tool that can solve complex problems in seconds. The strategy is to treat it as a specialized tool, not a crutch. Learn its capabilities. Know that you can type in a system of 2 equations and it will show you the exact point of intersection. Know that you can graph a complex quadratic and instantly find its vertex and roots. Practice using it so it's second nature on test day. But also know when not to use it. For simple arithmetic or problems that are more about logic than calculation, using the calculator can actually slow you down. Master the tool and it will save you. So, for the math section, your process is read and translate, recognize the pattern, choose the right tool, whether that's algebra, geometric formula, or the Desmos calculator, and always double-check that you're answering the specific question being asked. You now have the schematic for the entire track. You know the tight corners of grammar in the reading and writing section and the long, high-speed straightaways of algebra in the math section. This knowledge, combined with your expert driving skills of pacing and elimination, makes you a truly dangerous competitor. But knowing the track isn't the same as racing on it. Now it's time to talk about the single most important phase of your preparation: the simulated race day. This isn't just about taking a practice test. This is about creating a carbon copy of the real thing. A full dress rehearsal where you condition your mind and body for the 3-hour marathon ahead. Think of it this way. A boxer doesn't just practice punching a bag. He spars. He gets in the ring and goes the full 12 rounds, learning how to manage his energy, how to take a punch in the 10th round and still think clearly, how to stay focused when fatigue is screaming at him to quit. The full-time practice test is your sparring session. It's where you build the single most underrated skill for the SAT: mental endurance. Anyone can be sharp for the first 65-minute reading section. But can you still perform complex quadratic equations 2 hours later, after your brain has already analyzed 5 dense passages and corrected dozens of grammatical errors? That's what separates a good score from a great score. The simulated race day is how you build that muscle. So how do we do it? We become masters of the simulation. This process is non-negotiable, and every detail matters. First, schedule it. Look at your calendar and block out a 4-hour window, preferably on a Saturday or Sunday morning. Why the morning? Because that's when the real SAT is administered. You need to train your brain to be at its peak performance at 8 a.m., not 8 p.m. Tell your family, tell your friends. For these 4 hours, you are completely unavailable. You are in the testing chamber. Second, create the environment. Find a quiet space. Not your bed, not the couch with the TV on in the background. A desk or a table. The only things on that desk should be your practice test, a number 2 pencil, not a mechanical one, get used to the real thing, an approved calculator, and a separate timer. Do not, under any circumstances, use your phone as a timer. Your phone is your biggest enemy on test day. The mere presence of it is a distraction. Put it in another room. Turn it off. For the next 3 to 4 hours, it does not exist. Third, use the official materials. You must, and I mean must, be using the official practice tests released by the College Board. You can find them for free on their website or in their official SAT study guide. Why am I so insistent on this? Because the SAT has a unique fingerprint. The way they phrase questions, the logic they use for trap answers, the specific nuances of their reading passages. It's a style that third-party companies try to imitate but never perfectly replicate. Practicing with unofficial tests is like training for a marathon by running on a track that's a slightly different length. Feels like you're making progress, but your data is skewed, and you're building the wrong instincts. Stick to the source material. It is the only true measure of your skills. And print out the test and the bubble sheet. Don't take it on a computer screen. You need to practice bubbling your answers, managing your test booklet, and flipping pages under time pressure. Every second counts. Fourth, execute with perfect discipline. Start your timer for section 1. When it goes off, you stop. Immediately. Even if you're one question away from finishing. The point is not to finish the test. The point is to simulate the conditions. Then you take the official break. A 10-minute break after the reading section. A 5-minute break after the math no calculator section. Use these breaks. Stand up, walk around, have a snack, use the restroom. Train yourself to reset and refocus in that short window, just like you'll have to on the real day. Then, when the break is over, you sit down and immediately start the next section. No exceptions, no delays. Completing this simulation is a victory in itself. You've just subjected yourself to the full pressure and duration of the test. But the work isn't over. In fact, the most important part has just begun. What you do in the 24 hours after your practice test is what will actually raise your score. This is the post-race debrief. Most students finish a practice test, calculate their score, and then feel either good or bad about that number. That number is the least important piece of information you will get from this exercise. A score is a result. It's a lagging indicator. We are interested in the process, the leading indicators. We need to become detectives and perform a forensic analysis of our own performance. This is the 2-step review process that will change everything for you. Step 1 is the blind review. Before you even look at the answer key, go back through the entire test. Resolve every single question you were even slightly unsure about. Circle the questions you guessed on. For the math, rework the problem from scratch. For the reading and writing, reread the relevant lines and reevaluate the answer choices. Why do we do this? Because it separates two very different types of problems. Problems you genuinely don't know how to solve, and problems you could have solved if you weren't under the stress of the clock. This is crucial data. When you finally score your test, you'll be able to see which questions you got right by a lucky guess, and which you got wrong but could solve with a little more time. Now for step 2, the error analysis. This is where you create your secret weapon, an error log. Get a notebook or open a spreadsheet, and for every single question you got wrong, and every question you guessed on correctly, you're going to log it. Don't just write down the question number. You're going to break it down. Your log should have 4 columns. Column 1, the question. Write a brief description of it. Reading passage 2, main idea question. Or math, no calc, number 12, system of equations. Column 2, the mistake category. This is the most important part. You must diagnose why you got it wrong. And every mistake falls into one of 4 categories. Category 1, content gap. This means you simply didn't know the material. You didn't know the grammar rule, you forgot the formula for the volume of a cylinder, you didn't understand what a specific vocabulary word meant. This is a knowledge problem. Category 2, question misinterpretation. You knew the content, but you misunderstood what the question was asking. You solved for X when it asked for 2X. You found the detail that was true according to the passage, but the question asked which detail was not true. This is a reading comprehension problem, even on the math section. Category 3, careless error. These are the ones that make you want to bang your head against the wall. You bubbled in C but you meant B. You dropped a negative sign in your algebra. You did 2 plus 3 and got 6. This isn't a knowledge problem. It's a focus and process problem. Category 4, time pressure error. This is a mistake you made because you were rushing at the end of a section. You had to guess on the last 3 questions, or you hurried through a reading passage and missed the key idea. This is a pacing problem. Column 3, the correction. In your own words, explain the correct answer and why it's correct. Don't just copy the answer key. Force yourself to articulate the logic. For a math problem, resolve it step by step. For a reading question, write down the exact line from the passage that proves the right answer. Column 4, the action plan. What will you do to prevent this specific mistake from happening again? This is where you create your future study plan. If it was a content gap on trigonometry, your action plan is review SOHCAHTOA and do 15 practice problems on Khan Academy. If it was a question misinterpretation, your action plan is, I will always circle exactly what the question is asking for before I start solving. If it was a careless error, I will plug my answer back into the equation to check my work on all algebra problems. Do you see what's happening here? You're transforming a passive experience, taking a test, into an active learning system. Your mistakes are no longer failures. They are data points. They are a personalized, highly specific roadmap showing you exactly what you need to work on. Your error log becomes the most valuable study guide you could possibly own. Instead of studying everything, you now know to focus your week on exponent rules and comma splices. Instead of just trying to be more careful, you have a concrete strategy of circling what the question is asking for. You're not just practicing. You're engaging in deliberate practice. You're not just hitting the gas pedal. You're back in the garage with your pit crew, analyzing the telemetry from your last run, making precise adjustments to the engine and the aerodynamics. This process is hard work. It will take you longer to review the test than it did to take it. But this is the work that matters. This is the difference between spinning your wheels and accelerating towards your goal. Every full practice test you take, followed by this deep methodical review, is like a software update for your brain. You're debugging your own system, patching vulnerabilities, and optimizing your processing speed. You're not just learning the SAT. You are building a system for success that is custom-tailored to your unique strengths and weaknesses. And with that system in place, you become more than just a test taker. You become a strategist, ready to deconstruct any challenge the test throws at you. But a strategist knows that preparation for the battle is only half the war. The other half is executing on game day. The final weeks leading up to your SAT are not about frantic, panic cramming. They are about sharpening the blade, calming the mind, and stepping into the test center with the quiet confidence of someone who has a plan for every contingency. This is the final ascent to the summit. Let's talk about how to navigate it. For weeks out from your test date, your focus should shift dramatically. The heavy lifting of learning new concepts and drilling individual skills should be mostly complete. Now, it's all about integration and stamina. This is when you begin taking one full-length, timed practice test every single week, ideally on a Saturday or Sunday morning to simulate the real experience. I mean, simulate it exactly. Wake up at the same time you will on test day. Eat the same breakfast you plan to eat. Find a quiet space, put your phone in another room, and use only an approved calculator. Time each section precisely. Take the breaks as they are allotted and no longer. The purpose here is threefold. First, you're building mental endurance. The SAT is a marathon, not a sprint. Sitting and maintaining intense focus for over 3 hours is a skill. And like any skill, it requires practice. Your first couple of full-length tests might leave you feeling completely drained. That's normal. By the third or fourth, you'll feel your stamina increasing. Second, you're mastering your pacing under pressure. It's one thing to know you have roughly 65 seconds per math question. It's another thing entirely to feel that rhythm, to know instinctively when to push forward and when a question is taking too long and needs to be flagged for later. This is where your time management strategies become second nature. Third, and most importantly, these tests are your final, most powerful diagnostic tools. After each practice test, you must conduct a deep, almost forensic analysis of your performance. Don't just look at the score. Look at the why behind every single incorrect answer. Create a mistake journal. Was it a careless error like a simple calculation mistake? Was it a concept gap? A specific grammar rule or math formula you still don't know? Was it a time management issue where you rushed and misread the question? Or was it a strategy error where you fell for a clever trap answer? Categorize every mistake. This detailed review is more important than taking the test itself. It's what turns practice into progress. Your weekly study plan during this final month is dictated by this review. If you consistently miss questions on quadratic functions, you spend a couple of hours that week reviewing and drilling only quadratic functions. You are no longer studying broadly. You are performing surgical strikes on your remaining weaknesses. Now let's talk about the final week. And this is where my advice might surprise you. In the 7 days leading up to the SAT, you should dramatically reduce your study load. This is the tapering phase. Think of an Olympic athlete. They don't run a full marathon the day before their race. They rest, they do light stretches, they visualize success. Your brain is a muscle and it needs to be fresh and rested on test day. The worst thing you can do is pull all-nighters trying to cram vocabulary or math formulas. This leads to burnout, increases anxiety, and can actually make you perform worse. So what does this tapering look like? Monday through Wednesday of test week, you can do some light review, maybe 30 to 60 minutes a day. Flip through your formula sheets. Review your mistake journal, reminding yourself of the traps you've learned to avoid. Read a chapter of a book to keep your reading comprehension skills sharp. But no full-length practice tests. No grueling multi-hour study sessions. The hay is in the barn. You have put in the work for months. Now is the time to trust that preparation. The day before the test is not a study day. It is a logistics and relaxation day. Your only goal is to eliminate any potential stress for tomorrow. In the afternoon, pack your test day back. Get everything together: your printed admission ticket, your photo ID, a few Sharpen No. 2 pencils, a good eraser, your approved calculator with fresh batteries, a water bottle, and a couple of healthy snacks like a granola bar or a banana for the breaks. Check the location of your test center on a map. Figure out exactly how you're getting there and how long it will take, adding a buffer of at least 30 minutes for unexpected traffic. By handling all these small details the day before, you free up your mental energy for the test itself. Then, for the rest of the day, do something you enjoy that has nothing to do with the SAT. Go for a walk, watch a movie, listen to music, talk with friends or family, eat a healthy, familiar dinner. Don't try some new exotic food that might upset your stomach. And most critically, go to bed early. Your goal is to get a full 8 to 9 hours of sleep. A well-rested brain is the single greatest competitive advantage you can have. On the morning of the test, your plan is already in motion. Wake up early enough that you don't have to rush. Eat that breakfast you've been practicing with, something with protein and complex carbs to give you sustained energy. Avoid sugary cereals that will lead to a crash. Do not, under any circumstances, try to do last-minute cramming. It won't help, and it will only spike your anxiety. Instead, you might listen to a playlist of songs that make you feel confident and energized. On the way to the test center, visualize yourself succeeding. Picture yourself calmly reading the passages, confidently solving the math problems, and efficiently managing your time. You are not going in to see what happens. You are going in to execute a plan you have rehearsed for weeks. Once you're in the test room, the mental game truly begins. You will feel nervous. Your heart might be pounding. That's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you care. The key is to manage that energy. Before the proctor says begin, close your eyes and take 3 slow, deep breaths. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4, and exhale for 4. This simple technique can slow your heart rate and clear your mind. As you work through the test, remember this mantra: one question at a time. Your entire universe should shrink to the single question in front of you. Don't worry about the hard question you just flagged, and don't worry about the section that's coming up next. Just focus on the present task. If you encounter a question that completely stumps you, don't panic. It happens to everyone. Your strategy is already in place. Take your best educated guess, flag it, and move on. Wasting 5 minutes on a single hard question is how you lose the opportunity to answer 3 easier questions later in the section. Remember, every question is worth the same number of points. Your job is to harvest as many points as you can, and that means not getting bogged down. During the breaks, use them effectively. Stand up, stretch, go to the restroom. Drink some water and eat your snack. Do not talk to other students about the test. Hearing someone say, "That math section was so easy," when you found it difficult, will only destroy your confidence. And hearing them say, "That was impossible," will only feed your own anxiety. Stay in your own bubble. The breaks are for a mental and physical reset, nothing more. Finally, trust your preparation. You have built a system. You have diagnosed your weaknesses and turned them into strengths. You have practiced not just the content but the experience of the test itself. You are not just a student, you are a strategist. And as you fill in that final bubble, you can do so with the profound satisfaction of knowing you gave it your absolute all, leaving nothing to chance. And in that quiet moment, after the proctor calls time and the booklets are collected, a new phase begins. It's the phase of waiting. This period can feel stranger than the preparation itself. The pressure is off, but the uncertainty is on. You'll find yourself replaying questions in your head, second-guessing an answer choice in the math section, wondering if you misread that one passage in the reading. This is normal. It's the brain's way of decompressing from a high-stakes cognitive marathon. My advice here is simple yet difficult to follow. Let it go. You cannot change a single answer now. Your performance is sealed. Worrying about it is like trying to push a train that has already left the station. You've earned a break. A real one. Reconnect with friends, dive back into a hobby you set aside. Read a book for fun, not for analysis. Live your life. Because your life is infinitely more interesting than a standardized test. Then the day comes. Score release day. You'll log into the College Board website. Your heart pounding a rhythm against your ribs that feels both like fear and excitement. You'll click, you'll refresh, and then a number will appear on the screen. In that moment, one of 2 things will happen. First, you might see the number you dreamed of. The score that reflects all your hard work. The validation of every late night and every sacrifice weekend. This is you, celebrate it. Do not downplay it. Do not say you got lucky. You didn't get lucky. You got prepared. That number isn't just a score. It's a monument. A monument built brick by brick, practice problem by practice problem. It represents the discipline you cultivated when you chose to study instead of scroll. It represents the resilience you showed when you got a question wrong. Not with frustration, but with curiosity to understand why. This victory is yours. You earned it. Let that feeling of accomplishment sink in because it is real and it is profound. But what if the number you see isn't the one you wanted? What if it falls short of your goal or your expectations or the scores of your peers? First, and I need you to hear this, I need you to internalize this, breathe. That number on the screen is a data point. It is not an indictment. It is not a judgment on your intelligence, your worth, your creativity, or your potential to have an incredible, successful, and fulfilling life. The SAT is a test of how well you take the SAT. That's it. It's a snapshot of your performance on one specific day, on one specific set of questions. It is not, and never will be, the full measure of you. Allow yourself to feel the disappointment. Don't suppress it. It's okay to be let down. But do not allow that disappointment to curdle into despair or self-doubt. Once the initial sting fades, your job is to shift from an emotional response to a strategic one. Look at your score report. Where did you lose points? Was it a specific type of math problem? Was it the vocabulary and context questions? This isn't about beating yourself up. It's about gathering intelligence. You have options. you can decide to retake the test. This is not a sign of failure. It's a sign of grit. Many successful students take the SAT 2 or even 3 times. With your new score report data, you won't be studying blindly. You'll be performing surgical strikes on your weaknesses. You'll go into the next test not just with more knowledge but with more experience. Or you can decide you're done. And that is a perfectly valid and often very wise choice. We are living in a new era of college admissions. The number of test-optional and test-blind schools is enormous and growing. These schools have explicitly said they can and will evaluate you without a test score. They trust that the rest of your application, your grades over 4 years, the rigor of your courses, your essays, your extracurricular passions, your letters of recommendation, paints a much more complete and compelling picture of who you are than any single test ever could. Choosing the test-optional path is not a cop-out. It's a strategic decision to play to your strengths and present the version of yourself that shines the brightest. But here's the most important thing I'm going to say in this entire series, and it applies to you whether you scored a perfect 1600 or you've decided to never look at a test booklet again. The true value of this entire process was never the score. The score is a byproduct. The real prize is the person you had to become to prepare for this test in the first place. Think about it. Over the last few months, you have conducted one of the most intense self-improvement projects of your life. You learned discipline. You learned how to create a schedule and stick to it, even when you didn't feel like it. That skill is going to be the bedrock of your success in college when you're juggling 5 classes, a part-time job, and a social life. You learned how to manage pressure. You sat for hours under a ticking clock, forcing your brain to perform at its peak. That skill will serve you in every job interview, every major presentation, every deadline you will ever face in your career. You learned resilience. You got problems wrong over and over again, and you didn't quit. You looked at your mistakes not as failures but as clues. You taught yourself how to learn from what you didn't know. This is perhaps the single most important skill for a successful life, because life is an open book test, and you will constantly be faced with problems you've never seen before. You learn to think strategically, to break down complex problems, to identify patterns, and to manage your most valuable resource, time. These skills, discipline, pressure management, resilience, strategic thinking, these are not SAT skills. These are life skills. They have been forged in the fire of your preparation, and they are now a permanent part of your character. They are infinitely more valuable than any score. College admissions officers know this. They are not trying to build a freshman class with the highest average SAT score. They are trying to build a dynamic community of interesting, passionate, and resilient human beings who will contribute to campus life and go on to do great things in the world. Your application is a story. Your transcript tells the story of your academic consistency. Your extracurriculars tell the story of your passions. Your letters of recommendation tell the story of how others see your character. And your essay tells the story of who you are in your own voice. The SAT score is just one paragraph in a single chapter of that much larger book. It doesn't get to be the title. It doesn't even get to be the conclusion. This journey was never just about getting into college. It was about preparing you for what comes next. It was a training ground. It was designed to test you, yes, but more importantly, it was designed to build you. You learned how to face a mountain, not just by looking for a path, but by carving one for yourself, step by painstaking step. The skills you've honed are your real passport to the future. So my question to you isn't what did you score? It's who have you become? Think about that. What is one skill you built during this process that you're genuinely proud of? Let us know in the comments. Let's celebrate the real victories together. Because that's what this was all about. You are not the same person who watched the first part of this series. You are stronger. You are more disciplined. You are more capable than you ever knew. The test is over. Your story is just beginning. Now go out there and write it.